Well, I was born and raised in North Dakota, and my education took me to Seattle, Washington, the University of Washington. It was a whole new environment that I got to experience, and that was good. But then I met my husband, Walter, around this time, and he was into photography, wildlife photography, and I thought, well, that's really interesting. And he and I just kind of took to one another pretty quickly. And I had all the biology background, and he had all the business and photography background, and we kind of married them together. I left Washington and was able to get into Michigan to finish up my degree. That's what brought me to the state. I found a job in Jackson. And I came over here with the idea, young and adventurous that I was. I thought, oh, I'll only be here about 4 or 5 years, and then I'll move on to another college and teach so I can be all over the United States. Well, I was there 32 years later when I retired. It was a nice community. It was about the right size. And we set up our film business here. I loved the teaching, and I loved the community, and it all worked out just great. There was no better career than filming. It just was the best. People often ask, how long did it take you to film that? And there's never a good solid answer to that, because when we would go out to film, we were always working on 4, 5, 6 things at a time. And anything that was worth filming, we were filming whether we had a project in mind or not. So I'd say in general, we'd start filming on something and we'd film for at least 2 years, concentrated somewhat on that one species. And once we got the footage, it would only take us about a year to get it from the raw cans to the finished product. Normally, with a lot of filming is done, you write a script and then you go out and find, you do all the shooting, and that's fine if you got actors that do what they're supposed to do and say what they're supposed to say. But when you're doing wildlife footage, you kind of go with what the animals did and put it together in a good story. So we would write the script afterwards. You wonder how long you wait for something. And I can remember I was sitting in a blind out on a marsh in North Dakota, waiting for a nest of grebes to hatch. And we were supposed to be meeting my parents up north and having a weekend and so forth. And there I was sitting, and there was no way I was going to leave it no matter what. And we had our own little coming out party because they hatched. They hatched, and we had the footage on the little grebes and their mama, and it was worth the wait. But I'd been in that blind for a couple of days waiting for that. I've been to Africa, and I've been all over Canada. I've been all over the United States and filmed in all those places. But there is nothing more memorable, and I'd go back tomorrow, and that's to Alaska. It's just a wild, beautiful place in Alaska. And probably my first experience with grizzly bear was up there. And I can remember he was lying out there on the hill a ways, and my husband says, we're going to photograph that now. We're going to go as close as we can. Oh, I wasn't too sure of that. He had more experience at this than I did, and I thought, well, I trust you. We'll do that. So we started walking out across the tundra, and I had a still camera, and he had the motion camera at that time. And I'd set up and take pictures, and then he'd walk ahead. And then he'd stop, and he'd film, and he'd say, now you come ahead of me. And so I would do that, and we kept exchanging off till we got to a point. That bear had been lying down, and all of a sudden, he stood up like that. And I said, I think we better go back. And my husband says, yeah, we'll go back, but we're not running back. We're going to go back just the way we came. So advancing just a little time, and the bear was fine with that. We've separated ourselves from our environment in too many cases, and I could see that happening then when we lost the connection with the rural community and taking care of animals and being a part of that. We don't want to get dirty, and we don't want to climb around and scratch ourselves, and that's part of life, being out there and being a part of that. Going to the pond and digging around and see if you can find some frogs and some things that you shouldn't even be in, but boy, is it fun. I would like to think that our films helped shape some people's understanding of the environment, and that it helped them even maybe go in a direction, a career, at least implementing it in their businesses and what they did, to be more aware of their environment and nature and know about pollution and about poisoning the things around them. Lots of people are working on these things, but it would be nice to know that the turkeys and the sandhill cranes and the loons that we're seeing every day in our yards now and are around, you see flocks, we didn't have those 30 years ago. And with just a little bit of help and a little bit of taking the pressure off and providing some habitat, they're back. They recover wonderfully. So I'd like to think I had a part of that. I really would.